If the peace of the deceased is disturbed, can there ever really be rest for the living?
How could they allow this to happen?
What if we are ignoring amber alerts from the dirt?
What do we do with the dead? They're in the way.
What if directly under your feet, there were whole communities silenced? The past speaks. Are you listening?
What do you think of the neighborhood you're living in?
It's nice.
Reckoning America's past.
The real tragedy was that they took people's private homes.
Could mean uncovering what's beneath the places we drive past or visit daily.
Some of these were intentionally stolen. They were desecrated. They were built on top of.
At the state level, Representative Fentress Driscoll is pushing for the protection and preservation of Black burial grounds. But to protect them, you have to locate them first.
And right now, I don't think there's any acknowledgement that there are Black people buried over there.
Local historian and author Dr. Marvin Dunn took us to this location in Allapattah, a Miami-Dade public school parking lot. City of Miami Park and Fire Station sit between these 3 blocks off of Northwest 46th Street now. But this map from 1936 shows it was once a Black community called Railroad Shop Colored Edition. And Dunn says there's reason to believe a Black cemetery was erased at this very site.
Developed here for people who worked on repairing the railroad.
It's a place Kenneth Kilpatrick has heard about for years. He introduced us to his dad and aunt, who were born and lived in Railroad Shop as children. Their house would have sat directly in front of what is now Charles Hadley Park.
I remember I was crying. It was raining real hard.
Neither remember a cemetery, but they do remember being forced out of their home in 1947 when the city of Miami seized the property of Black residents.
I just remember being really frightened and really, really scared that they were going to do something to my grandfather.
With the families gone, the property was then used to build a school for white children, a school that is now named after the late Railroad Shop activist Georgia Jones Ayers, a teenager at the time of the evictions. Dunn says she told him about the existence of a cemetery here before her passing.
She knew it to be there when she was a little girl. I trust George's word.
We wanted to know what Miami-Dade County schools knew about this property. They shared this 1948 land survey and aerial photos from 1957. A spokesperson told us that, to the best of their knowledge and after looking at documents, there were no notes indicating an existing cemetery. There also isn't any reference to a cemetery on the 1936 map we found of the community, but oral histories, some of which are in black and white, suggest a cemetery could have predated the Railroad Shop community. Local genealogist Larry Wiggins, who helped in the rediscovery of another Black burial ground, pointed us to this Miami Herald News article. It chronicled interviews from old-time Miamians. One woman remembered families could buy parcels of land at the site of a Black burial ground, known as Evergreen Cemetery, which was reportedly relocated, and the land, they say, would become a part of the Railroad Shop Colored Edition. We found this 1920 newspaper clipping. It offers another clue. It makes reference to an evergreen-colored cemetery near the railroad shops offering to sell acres of land. What came of this offer? We don't know. But what we do know is it was not uncommon for bodies of Black people to be relocated. This 1916 birth certificate shows a baby buried in an evergreen cemetery was later relocated to another Black burial ground. Does a cemetery still remain at this site in Allapattah? It's unclear.
That just hit me. That's sacred ground over there.
But Dunn sure believes one does.
It's a parking lot, but it's sacred ground. That's hurtful to me.
We asked Miami-Dade Public Schools if they have ever used technology to detect the presence of possible graves at the site. They told us they haven't. We also reached out to the city of Miami, but are yet to hear back. A historically Black burial ground known as Evergreen Memorial Park Cemetery still exists today. We reached out to the current owner of the property to find out if they have any information that could point to whether their cemetery was ever relocated or if bodies from Allapattah were moved to their cemetery. We are still waiting to hear back. Sasha Jones, NBC6 News.